Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. We've reached episode 676. This is being recorded on May 11 of 2022. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hallstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Sproenberg.
It's time for Food with Josh, the part of our show where we go to Laramie, Wyoming, and Josh talks about something he ate today.
I did eat something today because I enjoy living. So this was kind of an interesting one. I mean, it's not a new concept. It is called the Frito Pie Burger. Now, people have had, Frito pies before, which is, Frito-Lay chips, Fritos on top of like chili and whatnot. Well, this is the Frito Pie Burger. It's a burger with two patties, chili, queso, and of course, Fritos. And you think, well, that doesn't sound too exciting. And then you finally get to actually see it, and it's much more exciting. I mean, they sprinkle that special chili powder on top, and the chili's is robust with beef and black beans and, the red sauce, and it's got a little spice to it. And then you got the Fritos that are crunchy on top, and the queso just kind of, miles it out. So even though the fries look perfect, they were rock hard. They overcooked them today. It was very disappointing. I swear I almost chipped my tooth on a couple of them. Not that I didn't try to eat them all because, well, they still tasted good. They were just really super hard. However, the Frito Pie Burger was really tasty. You can see, kind of the onions, on there. And I had to take I had to take the lettuce and tomato off and the pickles because it doesn't go with it. However, leaving the onions on was an excellent idea. And, it filled me up. I am not hungry at this point, even though I ate it 7-8 hours ago. So yeah, it does tend to fill one up, and it was tasty. So good luck getting your Frito Pie Burger.
Our lead story tonight has to be the most exciting graphics launch in years. It's the refresh, the Radeon refresh, or as AMD's calling it, the Radeon refinement. AMD Radeon RX 6000 series graphics are refined for 2022. And what does this mean exactly? Well, we talked about this before. We've been hearing all these rumors. AMD didn't actually announce anything until the reviews were all live, which is odd, but took a preliminary look at performance here, and I will show that in a moment. But first, let's just look at a rundown. Here's an incomplete look at the current lineup. I will note the 6650 XT replaces the 6600 XT. The price is $20 more, $399 versus $379, but it is the replacement. Once the 6600 XTs are gone, they're gone. Now, the 6750 XT will exist alongside the 6700 XT, as will the 6950 XT exist alongside the 6900 XT.
Can I have a question? Where would be the 6800 version of the 50 series?
We didn't do one. So.
No.
Well, that's why I didn't put it on this chart.
So not
already
only is there not one, but they're dropping the RX 6800.
Yeah.
It's, again, going to be gone. Daddy gone.
Oh, okay. It is
Love
EOL. Okay.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. But the 6800 XT is still...
Yeah, that's the one I'm playing with.
Pricing, by the way, 6750 XT has an MSRP of $549, so that's $80 more than the 6700 XT at $479. And then the 6900 XTs, well, it's not a replacement. The 6950 XT is $100 more, so it's the slightly faster companion, and it's $100 more. So the big deal here is that they bumped up the clocks, and they're using faster GDDR6 memory. It goes to 18 gigabit per second effective instead of 16 with the original non-6X50 XT refresh versions. And here's AMD's graphic for the current pricing on these new cards, by the way. And actually, one of the nice things is about AMD, as Josh can tell you, you can actually buy cards at MSRP direct from AMD from time to time. So
You can. Yeah, I got a 6700 XT. It was relatively painless as compared to previous times. But there is one interesting thing. Apparently, with the 6950, they did increase the Infinity Fabric clock quite a bit. And that has a net positive effect on the Infinity Cache. Is that what it's called?
I'll go with it. I know what you're talking about. And
Game
make-
cache.
We'll allow it.
Anyway.
Game cache.
It's Infinity Cache on their official specs, yes.
Regardless,
Okay.
the
Not
69
to be confused with Infinity Fabric.
Yeah, different. But anyway, when they increase the Infinity Fabric, then they increase some of the higher level cache speeds as well. And so, yes, you're going to get a performance boost with the 6950, but it's only going to be so much.
I watched your
Not
Bauer's
very much.
review of the 6950 XT, and pretty much his testing validated the performance claims that are out there for this garbage. It's around 7% faster than the non-50.
And it's what, 15% more expensive?
Yeah, depending
Well,
on the
that
card.
depends.
Well, it depends on where you're buying
that's kind
it.
of NVIDIA math there.
Right.
Yes.
That was, in fact, his video is called AMD doing NVIDIA things or something to that.
Yeah.
So it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the 3090 Ti kind of. It's more expensive. It's a little bit faster. So anyway, the card in question for our review was the 6750 XT, and it's a big card. You can't really tell in this photo. Here's a photo with the original 6700 XT.
Yes, look at that. It's like 2.5 slots.
I just want to use the word.
2 inches longer.
I
3
just want to say
slots.
girthy.
I do have to send this card back, but at this very moment, I have not sent it yet. I'm still waiting on UPS label, so I have it. And this is it's no joke. This
Don't
is
give yourself a
very
hernia.
large
Yeah,
graphics
monster.
card.
Can't need a
Holy
brace.
crap.
That's ridiculous.
It's
You could use
very
that as a
big.
boat anchor.
And you know what? This did a really nice job. This using a massive heatsink like this and 3 fans really does help account for the substantial increase in power and heat production that the new GPU provides. Because what are you going to do when you have the same architecture? It's the same process, 7
my
nanometer
question.
TSMC, but you're
Whether it was
increasing.
the same silicon,
Yeah, same silicon.
just better. Okay.
It's just faster. It's clocked up. It's an overclocked card. It's a pre-overclocked 6700, but they're using 18 gigabit per second effective memory instead of 16. And one thing I hadn't really been aware of is that, and just again, watching Gerbauer's video, which you should do because he's more knowledgeable about this than I am, obviously, that he said there was an artificial memory speed limit in place when you tried to overclock the previous cards. And that is gone now. So you can go all the way up to like 3,000 or some number was the limit with the slider. Before it was significantly lower. So even if you could have pushed your 16 gigabit per second memory on a 6700 XT to the level of this new card, you would not have been able to, at least not without, I don't know, flashing your BIOS. So, and this card, by the way, this NITRO Plus from Sapphire, has a total board power of 273 watts. Now, a stock 6700 XT is 230. The new ones are 250, so this one gives you another 23 on top of that. Just so you're not going to be limited by power, certainly.
It's 2 watts short, isn't it, of maximum power?
I don't know.
PCIe,
I was very confused because, like,
75.
even in this slide from Sapphire's press deck, it shows the NITRO Plus at 230 watts, which is actually
No, it's not.
yeah, that's like a stock 6700. And AMD's reviewer's guide showed it at 250, and then when I went to Sapphire's website after the review went live and checked, it showed 273. So one of those is correct. And here's the fun thing about benchmarking GPUs, by the way. It's you can never do it enough. and it's hard to keep up if you don't have like dedicated people just doing GPU testing as new games come out and technology changes. Because for the longest time, I was using a Ryzen 9 3900X for the GPU test bench. I have since moved on to a Ryzen 7 5800X because after I reviewed that processor, after AMD finally sent us one, I thought, man, this is so much better in these gaming benchmarks. I need to start using that for the GPU test bed. And I also paired it with lower latency memory. So you can see there's CL 14. 32 gigs of that G-Skill Trident Z Neo 3600 CL14. So I could not, in good conscience, compare test results done with a 3900X at CAS 16 memory with the 5800X and CAS 14 memory. So I did not. So unfortunately, that meant that as I was putting the charts together and realized this glaring issue, I couldn't use any of my comparison data. So I'll look at the 6700 XT just to give you a bit of a picture of where this sits against the competition. But here's the big difference between the 6700 XT and the 6750 XT. And the NITRO Plus is just clocked up as fast as it pretty much can go. It was consistently over 2700 megahertz. Like 27,
it's a 200 megahertz jump overall.
When it holds it.
That's hefty.
And look how consistent it was. I mean, there's a few drops here and there, but compared to the stock 6700 XT, this was just kind of pegging like 27, 20 megahertz the entire time. This is 10 iterations of Metro Exodus here.
It's max firmware configuration, and that massive cooling is able to keep it there.
Yeah, even in all of these tests, which is this 10 iterations of Metro Exodus that I ran, it was only in the low 70s Celsius. Now, Hotspot was in the 90s, but the GPU itself was in the low 70s. It was mostly in like high 60s, low 70s.
Well, as the benchmarks age, it didn't get worse.
Yes.
Like it was a dip or two, but it actually did well.
I actually had one benchmark that showed worse performance, and I think that was a driver issue, or I did something wrong. I had done F1 2019, and I compared the two, and it was like 30 FPS slower on the new card. I'm like, okay, there's either a major driver issue, or I confused which two cards I was testing at the time. So
have you tried turning it off again?
Oh, so I just dropped that. I dropped that test. Anyway, here is a basic comparison of the two cards since I don't have any comparison data. And Cyberpunk 2077, we see an increase from 65 to 71 FPS. These are all 1440 high. So high preset for Assassin's Creed Valhalla at 1440, it goes from 86.95 to almost 92. And then Metro Exodus, also at the high preset, goes from 87 to 94 frames per second. Far Cry 5, now this is at the Ultra preset, and that is an increase of about 8.5 frames per second from 132 to 140, almost 141. So of those few benchmarks, their average is 7% higher performance. So, and Sapphire had shown this slide in their press deck that showed between 100 and 108% kind of is this improvement. And all of these results from these synthetic benchmarks, the 3D Mark benchmarks, were right around maybe 107 to 108. So,
and I'm thankful for them to use my favorite scale on the charts.
I love that. I love the scale that starts at 94%. It is easier to read though when you're looking at small differences, because if you put this all the way down to 0, you're going to be staring at it and saying it's how much faster? What? It's what, 6%?
Like 5%, 7%?
Yeah, it's called marketing.
Yes, it is. Everyone's guilty of it, and I will call anyone out on it. But yeah.
So as the author of this post notes, nothing in life is free. So not only does this performance edge involve an $80 premium over the admittedly elusive $479 MSRP of the RX 6700 XT, though of course Josh did buy one last week at that price. The new card
at $475. Hello.
Yeah,
AMD Direct.
The new card drew quite a bit more power. Now the gaming system that I was using, as I mentioned, it's Ryzen 7 5800X. 32 gigs of 3600 memory. There's 2 SSDs in there, a Corsair 280 millimeter cooler. It's an AIO. The fans and the pump are all at 100% to prevent any kind of throttling. And the total draw from the wall with this system under a gaming load was 349 watts with the stock 6700 XT and 404 watts with the new 6750 XT Nitro Plus. So that's 55 watts greater power consumption. The Nitro Plus is going to pull more power than a stock configuration card would. But you're still looking at 16% more power. And the price between these two, this Nitro Plus card is not $549, as any overclocked card would be, especially this one that's pretty much the top of their product stack from Sapphire. It's $619. So it has a $70 premium over the base. Usually those are the Pulse cards, I think, from Sapphire. So that is about a 30% increase over that 6700 XT's MSRP. So if it's me, and I'm looking at this, I'm tempted to look on AMD.com again for one of those deals on an MSRP 6700 XT, because that would be less than $500, and you're within 7% of the performance.
Do you know that on Newegg today, I checked, there are like 3 or 4 cards that are under $500 now of the 6700 XT. Not quite $475, but you're looking at $498, $495. They're getting inexpensive. Well, relatively speaking.
Yeah. Well, and the 3070s and 3070 Ti's seem to have taken a quick drop in the last couple of days too.
Yeah, they're still pricey though. I mean, 6700 XT is faster than the 3060 Ti, and there's about, if your actual, MSRP, 6700 is more expensive, but if you're looking actual prices, the 3060 Ti is still upper $500. So $590, $570. Yeah, you're getting a good deal with the AMD. You're not getting the ray tracing performance, but you're getting an overall good deal.
Yeah, you're getting an overall good deal. And I mean, I read through, as I do, a lot of the reviews when I put mine up, which was a significantly shorter list than many of the other reviews. And so, yeah, a lot of them, the 6750 comes out roundabout the 3070 Ti, depending on the game. Mm-hmm. Even with your unbalanced test benches, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Sebastian? If I look at the original review in which I had done a bunch of comparison testing, here's Metro X at its 1440 high, and the 6700 XT was neck and neck with a 3060 Ti in most of the tests. They were really close to each other. It was not as fast as the 3070. No. But this new 6750 XT is right there with the 3750 numbers in almost every case. So they have matched the 3070, and as AMD points out, and as you've read, it does even occasionally beat it, which means it's up into that 3070 Ti territory. So at that point, it becomes, okay, this is a lot more compelling if you're just looking at the competition, because you cannot find a 3070 for less than $700. They are in stock finally, but they're like $719 and up when I was looking.
Yeah.
So now, the interesting thing I noticed from going through, because a couple of sites got all three, and I'm sure you're glad you didn't.
Oh, I know Tech Power Up is probably the one that I can think of.
And Euro 3D was another one.
Okay,
that did it. Yeah. There were actually a couple of them. And so long, and I'll try and keep it short, but the 6650 XT came close to like a 3060 Ti, but the thing was, it was nicely overclockable. Like, they got about a 10% boost on the boost clock and the memory. And that actually had an effect on it. The 6750 XT overclocking, not so great, but they were using an MSI version, the X Trio. So I don't know that it was quite as much of a brick as yours was, but it could have been. And the 6950 XT is actually freaking impressive, because they hit about the same sort of an overclock, like 10-12% overclock. And the bloody thing was already matching what NVIDIA just recently spewed out. So not in every game. It's an AMD card. It bounces around occasionally. It's yeah. So of the three of them, I actually think that the 6750 might be the least impressive of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think as long as it's in stock anywhere near MSRP and it can perform like a 3070, no problem. They're big. I don't know if the other ones are going to be like this though, but you might need a bigger case. This is like 3090 territory for size here.
Chonky.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, let us move to the news. And I'm excited about this because I don't know. I'm just a nerd, and I think this kind of stuff is cool. Or else, why the hell would I be doing this? But Intel, I kind of missed this. Their announcement of the 12th Gen Core HX processors. I'm thinking, okay, well, naturally there'd be the HX because, and then I realized, no, HX is AMD's thing. Intel has HK. What's this HX? So
it's a desktop processor with a BGA connection.
It's funny you say that because it's a desktop processor with a BGA connection. Here is a slide from the press deck, and it shows, let's see, you take this 45 by 37.5 by 4.4 millimeter LGA package, and you change it to a 45 by 37.5 by 2 millimeter BGA package, but direct die cooling. Direct die cooling. So this will be cooler than it is on the desktop. That's what we've all been wanting. Is that
do any
better hope so?
Do any of you remember the 430 HX chipset?
Was that their first
Socket 7?
That was
it was one of the first. I think it supported 2 CPUs. So it was a higher end chipset than the 430 TX. The 430 TX only supported like 64 megabytes of SD RAM, while the 430 HX was like double that of, was it Sims? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. No.
Dual inline.
Yes. Yeah. Dual inline, yeah. Because I can only afford the version.
It's been only 27 years.
Seems like yesterday.
Yeah. But anyway, 430 HX. That was one of my first real good enthusiast chipsets.
And here we are.
Yeah.
There's a new era in PC computing and mobile computing anyway. And I'm very excited to share this slide with you. This is the 12th Gen Intel Core HX processor lineup. There's 7 new processors, Core i9s, i7s, and i5s. I will direct your attention towards the right side of this table at max turbo power.
Oh.
These processors...
That's not a small number.
These mobile workstation processors, for workstations and gaming laptops, of course.
I think you misspoke. I think you misspoke when you said mobile.
May be a euphemism here.
No, it says for mobile workstations and gaming laptops at the top of the chart.
Right.
Anyway,
Josh,
no, it's never medically proven that you reduce your burning by putting a...
Do you remember the term portable?
Yeah.
Luggable. Luggable.
I'm not putting
Luggable. That was it. Yeah.
Yes, luggable.
See, these new... Compaq is going to come out with one. It's going to have a gas plasma display. It's going to be 40 pounds. And it's going to be the size of carry-on luggage.
It'll have its own built-in handle.
And it's going to be on stilts because of cooling purposes.
For people who listen to the podcast, the processor base power for all of these is 55 watts. Now, you can configure an HK up to 65 watts. The new HX takes it up to 157 watts for the max turbo. The 11th generation high-end product, what was the 11980HK? That was, I think, configurable up to 65 watts, but it could do like brief bursts of, I believe, 108. But I would like to see what the actual duration limit is for the 157 watts. It blows my mind.
Milliseconds.
What these designs are going to be like.
Milliseconds.
And
burst speed.
there is, at the very top, there is a 12950. Now, not to be outdone by AMD. They have a 12950HX, and that's exactly the same as a 12900HX, except that it supports ECC memory and it's Intel vPro capable. So that's the workstation one, and then the one you'll find in all the big, expensive gaming machines will be the i9 12900HX, which does not have ECC memory support. So anyway, we'll see designs this year, apparently. More than 10 workstations and gaming designs powered by 12th gen Intel Core HX processors are expected to be launched by major OEMs this year, including systems from Dell, HP, Lenovo, and others. Now, how much extra performance might you get from a processor like this? Well, comparing it to the 11980HK I mentioned, which is their baseline here, it is allegedly, this is an internal.
Another one of my favorite axes.
Yes, the 40 plus 45%.
111.
In media. Well, let's see. The 111 is in product development.
Wait. You got to back up to that first one. You guys still ripping a lot of DVDs with Handbrake? Just wondering.
I use Handbrake. Let's see. Handbrake, Blender, Lux Render, 45% improvement. Now, I just have to say, these numbers look great, and they showed some other slides too. Like, here's your performance increases in things like AutoCAD, Autodesk, 3D rendering like Blender. 81% better performance than the baseline. Well, you're comparing a part with a significantly lower TDP to a part with a significantly higher TDP. So I just have to wonder how much the 157 watts might be playing a role. And you can go through the performance index site if you really want to, if you have that kind of time, and read through the system measurement data for each of these claims and see which versions of the software they're using, what kind of memory and the graphics card. And what's interesting is they only show maximum graphics power. I don't see any mention of how the processor was configured. I guess we could look like a specific laptop model, like what MSI or whatever by default does for the CPU, because that's configurable. But I did not find any immediate answers to my questions about what was the short. My question to them would be, what was the short duration power limit set to? What was the tau on 157 set to in these benchmarks? Was it unlimited? What kind of prototype monster cooling system did you have, or was this just stock laptop? That sort of thing. Because this is all pre-release.
They put the laptop over an air conditioning vent on the floor and then started testing.
In a surprise move tonight, NVIDIA has released a technical blog post. I saw this all over Twitter right before I started tonight. That they are releasing open source GPU kernel modules. Yes, starting with the R515 driver release, they are publishing Linux drivers with dual GPL MIT license. So it's not just AMD now. NVIDIA has open source drivers.
And this has
Isn't
always
that
been a sore
hacking
spot.
group had demanded.
Well, yes, I think they did. Well, I don't remember that group's name. But yeah, Linux has always been sort of on the short end of the stick for drivers from NVIDIA, unfortunately.
And if you were a real stickler, you wouldn't use an NVIDIA card because you'd have to agree to third-party software to install it. So,
well, I mean, they provided them as binaries, but they usually restricted certain things like being able to virtualize the device and things of that nature, or have multiple, switchable. You just couldn't do a lot with it under Linux. It wasn't as nice as Windows.
well,
But having it open source, that's a big step in the good direction.
And don't worry, AMD is doing the exact same thing and gone fully up to open source on their drivers too.
I think that's been that way for some amount of time.
For a while.
yeah. But don't let that distract you from the other big NVIDIA news of the week, which was a little issue with some of their reporting, I guess. I don't know. When I first read this headline, NVIDIA's crypto calamity, And some of the headlines that were out there, I thought, oh no, were they mining in their own data centers and didn't report the income? But no, this was just like sales of the graphics cards, and this was in the last mining rush. The one,
Oh, this was 2017.
yeah, 2017, 2018 period. So tell me more, Jeremy.
Thought you wanted this to be quick. Yeah. So, long story short is that they got fined $5.5 million US, which for the amount of graphics cards that they sold is, just a little flick on the wrist. What it all came from was that a lot of the SEC in the US and a bunch of investors were a little bit upset because NVIDIA wasn't completely clear on where the revenue came from. NVIDIA claimed that, don't worry, this is gamers. This is not miners. Miners does account for a small percentage of our sales, but for the most part, it's gamers because somehow gamers are more sustainable of an economy than lunatics that want NFTs and Bitcoins. I'm not saying I'm biased. I'm just saying some people have never really gone through the savings and loan scams and, they haven't learned their lesson yet. So anyways, NVIDIA even went so far as to say, we're going to be putting out these new cards that are going to cripple some of the crypto mining algorithms, and we're going to come out with our own crypto mining processors, and we're going to sell these. And this is what we're going to be doing in the future. So don't worry, right now we're selling to gamers, but we're not selling to miners. And well, guess what? They were lying through their teeth. It was definitely that they were lying. But they were selling cards, so not everyone got too upset. Hence the $5.5 million fine, as opposed to something huge. But then, go on to today, and while the late LH cards took, how long did they take to find that developer's driver that completely and totally defeated the hardware protection?
Not man. It was same day almost.
It was within hours. It wasn't days. It was hours.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, it was quick.
the LHR thing was already gone. The CMP that they were selling never really sold very well at all. And so now NVIDIA is still trying to say that, no, we're not selling to miners. Not that we care because they still pay as much as a gamer does. But yeah, so there's been a release that has proven that they can bash through every single one of NVIDIA's supposed hardware mitigations for crippling mining on RTX 3000 and before. And yeah, you're quite happily mining at full speed. And I guess the investors are a little bit upset about this because, well, maybe they're not. Maybe they had their NFTs funged.
They
No, they
bought
don't have
a
sense
bunch
of humor
apes
about this.
with that money.
Yeah. And then they sold them for a couple $100 accidentally, and now they can't. So yeah, I mean, what baffles me about this whole thing is that NVIDIA got fined for selling graphics cards. Yeah, they lied.
Got fined.
Everyone lies.
Yes, that.
Do we need 10 gigabit per second networking at home? A lot of people think so. We don't even have 2.5 in any widespread use yet, but don't worry. Wireless will soon be faster than even that 2.5G NIC in your motherboard. That isn't really connected to anything that can make use of it. Wi-Fi 7 is coming. Tell me more.
Okay, back in the day when internet connection speeds were low and your network local was fast and you finally had drives that could absorb some of that speed, 2.5 and 10G in the home would have been useful. I mean, you reformat a machine, you pull over these large files, benchmarks, games, whatever. It would have saved a tremendous amount of time. And now you just install everything on a second drive and you scrub your OS drive and you down things from the internet at 1 gigabit. And the whole balance has changed for the home network, because you thought bigger, faster, going to be better. I'm going to be more useful. We're going to do streaming. All that is, it's just not a big deal anymore. And so I've been looking at 2.5G Ethernet. It doesn't make any sense. And now we've got Wi-Fi 7, which is 10 gigabit. And does anybody see a use case for this anymore with the way infrastructure has evolved?
I am really upset that my video calling when I am doing Wi-Fi is kind of occasionally laggy and choppy. So you need to upgrade to Wi-Fi 7, which has more bandwidth, but it has the same latency. Well, no, but it's got more bandwidth. Yeah, but it's wireless. It has the same.
It's not a stronger signal, so you're still going to get.
Yeah. But hey,
well,
one of the devices that they're selling, and Josh, you might actually be interested in this. One of them they're doing is a quad band 16 stream Wi-Fi router or repeater, depending on what you want. So it's an aggregate 33.1, but it can actually do full 16 streams, and it can team them if you've only got 8 or so people on there. So it will slightly reduce the amount of people whining about Wi-Fi in the office. Not by much, but it will by a bit. The cost to buy that is probably going to be obscene, but I mean, that's my usage case scenario, is less people.
That sounds like
bothering.
It's carving up the spectrum based upon user count.
Well, Sebastian has learned the wonders of doing MIMO benchmarking.
Yeah, MIMO. Yes, this is an issue. This is the problem that MIMO was designed to solve. And that the fact is that only one device can talk to an antenna at any particular time. So you end up with weird latency and drops and gaps and stuff. And it's never going to be good as hardwired. Unless you're the only person on it or the only device on it.
Yeah, but
which is very common.
And you're out in the middle of nowhere and nobody else has a Wi-Fi network near you, and there's no
there you
congestion and interference.
Sure. And there's no Bluetooth fighting and no cell, and
and no one starts a microwave oven.
It's like the two ways
the punchline of this all is, this is Qualcomm. This is Qualcomm presenting the Wi-Fi 7 standard to the Wi-Fi group. And this is, an old tradition that some company presents, hey, here's the PCI spec. I know that you guys didn't do it, but yeah, we figured it out. Either take it or don't. And so I expect that this is going to be, the new standard once the Wi-Fi group gets on it. But the amusing thing is, it's Qualcomm come up with this purely.
I understand 5G, why they introduced 5G, because it's incredibly bursty. Your cell phone only does so much with the stuff that it has. And so it makes more sense to have really fast bursts to individual cell phones and then chop them off, because they got all the data they need for a while. You're going to use that spectrum for other one that needs something. And you do that really, really fast, cuts them off. Do that for, thousands of other cell phones in range. And that makes sense because you're not causing extra latency. People are getting the stuff, and it just downloads really, really, really fast bursts that your cell phone can use. And that makes sense. But, 10G in the house it seems a little overkill. But you know what? I can't see 10 years in the future. Who knows what will happen? Especially with VR and AR.
It's going to happen
there right now.
It's going to be big.
If this was super low latency, like to the point of being virtually indistinguishable from wired, then that would be a big deal. But if it's just more bandwidth, most people do not have the equipment to take advantage of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, they're looking at this as a whole new industry. Qualcomm's going to sell so many of these chips and all these new 10 gigabit per second Wi-Fi 7 routers.
Sure.
Access points, USB adapters. Is there finally a reason to upgrade to Windows 11? It could
Hey,
be
they
the
keep tempting it.
sound recorder.
Yeah, but they still haven't brought back Movie Maker yet.
Oh, okay.
But they we don't have any sponsors tonight, so they've unfucked sound recorder or voice recorder, as they call it.
Oh,
voice
Jeremy, I
recorder
really,
Yeah,
I really wanted to do the whole, please, sir, please try Windows 11, please.
no,
That's how I wanted it to come across.
They're not quite that desperate yet, because if they brought
It's
back
getting
Movie
there.
Maker, it would be. Because that's something that everyone's been screaming about since they dropped it back in Windows 10. So the voice recorder was kind of crap. And they sort of brought back the original sound recorder, where it originally could only record in 60-second snaps, but you didn't realize you could splice them all together and make long enough to, say, record the entire BBC release of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy sextuplet release. So they've tried to make it a little bit better. And honestly, this is the only thing they've done that sort of makes Windows 11 even slightly tempting to let me go back and start beta testing OASs for Microsoft again. Because it will now do the proper visualization. It still keeps it trimming. It will let you put marks so that you can jump back and forth between where you're working on in the audio file if it's fairly long. They keep giving stuff that they took away back in the hopes that we'll upgrade to this new one.
Man, Media Player looks exactly like iTunes here.
You don't. Well,
But
it doesn't
iTunes
have rounded edges.
Oh, okay.
Used to look
Well,
like.
it kind of does. Look.
Yeah,
Look
I'm
at those
seeing
rounded-
the controls at the bottom.
Yeah, right. Oh, it's the controls at the bottom. Oh, excuse me. Absolutely. Getting
What the
indigestion
hell is
looking
going
at
on?
Windows 11. Every time I look at Windows 11, I get indigestion.
What kind of show is this? I don't even know.
It's not exactly a showcase for our very best effort, but
I don't know what's going on.
And they
Yeah.
gave you back MP3, WMA, and FLAC. You don't have to just export in WMA anymore.
Flack.
But please
that's a good one,
stop
actually.
showing me Windows 11. It just upsets my
The
stomach.
nags. The nags are horrible. So far, I've got like, I think all of my computers so far, Windows 10 keeps telling me that I'm not eligible for Windows 11 because I have no TPM.
You turned
I
off the
don't
TPM.
want-
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have like layered GPOs at work that disable TPM as best I can. Because a lot of it's BIOS level, so if the provider decides to enable it, the next BIOS update, well, it's enabled.
Thank you very much. Can I have another?
all right, let's quickly talk about the game on our list tonight. It is Hard West 2. It is in open beta on Steam right now.
Yeah, free game. Give it a shot. They are just letting you see the very first beginnings of it. If you played the first one and you hated it after the second that you played it because it's a stupid mining simulator, well, you missed the whole thing. It's a bunch of bizarrely connected scenarios which are kind of tied together, and Hard West 2 is a little bit more of that. They've incorporated two new things. One is, if anyone that's young knows Gears of War. Never played it, but Gears of War did Gears Tactics, where every time, it's a turn-based one, where every time you kill someone, you get your full action points back, XCOM style turn-based action points, and you can just keep chaining on and chaining on and chaining on and chaining on, and yeah, you can do some pretty horrific things. The other nice thing about it was that in the original game, you could do ricochets. So there were certain parts of the map that if someone was hiding behind cover, well, you could bounce a bullet off of one cover or one piece of metal and onto another and hit them in the back.
That's
In Hard West
actually fairly
1
interesting. Like it.
Yeah, in Hard West 1, you didn't get much of that. It was there, but it wasn't a lot of it. In this one, every map is coded in them. And it's quite like that. You just saw right
Yeah,
there.
that was cool.
Well done.
This is like Dungeon
They're-
Siege in the Old West.
Oh my gosh,
Kind of,
Dungeon
but
Siege in the Old West. This is like XCOM as well, I could see.
Yeah. It's turn-based XCOM with cover and everything. But yeah, it does look a lot like Dungeon Siege, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the same engine. It's fun. It's free. It's only going to cost you time and a little bit of space on your drive. Give it a shot.
Kaspersky uncovers fileless malware inside Windows event logs. Wait, who's responsible for that?
What?
This is the first time they've seen this type of malware hiding method.
It's so hard to explain.
You have 5 minutes.
Place shellcode in the Windows event logs.
Yes. And
This reminds me of Log4j. But sorry, go ahead.
oh no, it's so much worse.
Ooh.
It's so much worse. And like honestly, I don't even have the full cybersecurity knowledge to understand the entire flow of how this works. But essentially what they've been done, the good news is, we'll start with good news. You do have to be tricked into downloading something and putting it on your computer.
So just every
The sad news
workplace
is
that gets these phishing messages every single day, like
No problem.
Yeah, like thousands of them every day.
Yeah.
And
Let's just assume that people are clicking the links.
No, they are. So this bloody thing, what it does is goes in and hides code inside a Windows Event Viewer. They are literal logs inside of Event Viewer, but they're actually code. But they're relatively quadruple encrypted. And they're encrypted using different encryption software that they've made to work well. Once it's in there, it does a really quick communication outside, which could either be through a pipeline or through HTTP. Depends. It'll do it. No, Maxius, you won't even see them there. They're encrypted. And it uses a bunch of code that they borrowed from Cobalt Strike and Silent Break, which are two really, really good pen testing companies. You buy their software to penetrate your own systems. But these guys have got a hold of it and done it. And so the shell code, which is encrypted, will occasionally just sort of overwrite like NTDLL and a couple of other things. Except they've also got internal signing on them, so the normal scan for a virus is just going to, oh yeah, it's signed. They don't check that the fact that the only signature that Kaspersky's ever detected was from this virus. It's signed. It gets, it gets so much worse. I really haven't even been able to grasp how well this goes, but it just jumps into everything whitelisted on your system, because now it's already whitelisted. Not going to get scanned. Oh, it's going to get, you still signed? Yep, I'm still signed. All right, see you later. Except you're not. And yeah, it's horrifying. It's probably even worse than what we've been dealing with Log4j.
Well, the log level attack reminded me of Log4j. That's
no, it does.
the style of attack.
This is baked into your OS, not the add-on you're running.
don't ever open up email attachments of any kind.
No.
Don't answer
Don't
it.
click on any links.
Stop clicking links,
That's the big one.
please, people. You are not a millionaire. No one loves you. You're not getting anything for free. You didn't just win a car.
No, your Bank of America account does not need you to click here to reset the password.
You're not in danger. The police are not coming to pick you up if you don't click here to pay your cable bill.
And,
Please. No. The IRS is
iTunes
not going to
card?
arrest you. Apple has not gifted you a free iTunes gift card. You didn't just win a new iPhone. Okay? What
Right,
else?
you're such
I'm
a
not-
FedEx
Downer.
doesn't need your information.
You do not need to verify your information for anything. Your utility company's not looking at your credit card. Forget it. Just
As we
Well, except for
record
the link
this-
we're all about to send you. In which case, you are going to verify yourself as a fan of PC Per.
Well, that's
Yes.
fine. You should do that.
The sad thing is, we're not
that
actually going to
message,
do anything
yes,
with
click
it.
yes on that message. since we have special roving correspondent Allyn Malventano, I believe is how it's pronounced. Is that correct? Mr. Maltavino is on the show to discuss. For some reason, I don't know. Brett called him. He's like, "Hey, this story has you all over it. You should come on." And
Well, I had just seen Alan a few days ago. He's in DC visiting, so we met up a few days ago, and I ran across the story, and I'm like, this would be perfect for Alan to come and comment on. So I asked him, and here he is. He's made us an unusual request and responded, and is connected on his phone even because he had no way to podcast in any other way.
And I'm currently looking at schematics.
oh, okay.
Of course he is. See, this is where the iPad would come in handy right now as your second screen.
I'm looking at cooling system schematics.
Yeah,
Of course.
quite possibly on a Tesla display that he's removed from a Tesla and is just carrying with him.
Yeah.
Obviously, this store is
happen to have it.
Okay, so yes, this
Tesla
is
related.
Just to preface this is a Tesla story. Here's one up at Tom's Hardware, but there's been this story going around that Tesla has soft recalled. I'm not sure exactly what that means. 130,000 cars due to overheating Ryzen APUs. Now, let's jump to all sorts of conclusions here.
Yes,
But
let's.
Alan's actually trying to study the schematics to see how the cooling system works, because this article says that the CPU, or APU in this case, is overheating because cooling is being diverted to car batteries during the preconditioning process. Now, I used to own a hybrid car. I know that they explained to me that the way that the battery venting and cooling system works is it actually does take in cabin air. There was it was the back right passenger seat that had this grill, and it would draw in cabin air down and cycle it over the batteries to prevent overheating.
That was vastly different than how a Tesla works.
Yeah, and those were also
Very
nickel
different.
cadmium or nickel metal hydride battery packs in the Prius. So
Yeah.
how does
Tesla
the
packs
Tesla
are
work?
just water cooled. Yeah, there's no air path. There's no air path across the pack. It's sealed. But what I found interesting about that article is it says that this thing happened, like the Ryzen is overheating, but only while it's preconditioning for approaching a supercharger. And that's the opposite of what happens when you're approaching a supercharger. It's not cooling. It doesn't cool the battery. It heats the battery before you hit a supercharger, because it's trying to warm it up so that it takes the charge faster. Because if you try to charge a lithium battery really fast when it's only like at room temperature or colder, like if it's just cold, then it'll charge slowly, right? If you want it to charge faster, superchargers are like really fast, especially the newer ones that are like 250 kilowatts. So it's charging the packet like 3C, like 3 times, one. In theory, it would go from empty to full in 1/3 of an hour, but of course that it doesn't stay that way, because as it gets fuller, it tapers off. But for like the first third of the pack or so, it's super fast as far as its charging rate. So to be able to do all that, it just, as you're driving up to the supercharger, like if you put it in an app, if it says, hey, you're approaching a supercharger, it like pre-games it by trying to heat the pack. So I don't know. I was looking at the cooling system schematic for it. It's supposed to be able to cool the CPU at the same time that it heats the pack. Like that's a mode that it's supposed to be able to work in, but maybe something's acting up or something. Like obviously if they can fix it with firmware, then it just must be something that somebody didn't configure the right way somewhere.
That would be my first question, is if they're not physically reconfiguring where that processor is, it can't be physical, can it? Like it's got to be a software thing.
It's in a coolant loop in a system with a bunch of different valves that can divert cool or heat to a bunch of different places, right? And so it's just a matter of, is the Ryzen getting cold water or hot water? So maybe something is just going a little backwards. But I didn't think that there was even a mode where it could heat the ECU. Like, why would you want?
So is this kind of like Bill O'Reilly is in your car, and as you're approaching a supercharger, he yells, "Screw it, we'll do it live. We'll fix it in firmware.
Maybe.
And blows a lot of hot air on the processor.
Yeah, I thought that's the direction you were going with that anecdote.
Yeah.
Honestly, the NHTSA
Yeah.
is the one who came up with this theory. Apparently,
Well, okay. So, well, I think it was that article that was kind of embellishing a little, unless
I see.
NHTSA themselves are the ones that were explaining that it happened just for preconditioning.
okay.
But I don't know. It just, I mean, it could be that it only happens during preconditioning, but just due to something other than the fact that you're trying to heat the battery, other valve turned the wrong way somewhere in the system, right? But there's a lot of those things for Teslas where the NHTSA gets involved because technically it's a recall and they have to send out letters to everybody and have to follow the whole procedure, even though it's really they're just doing a firmware update. So it's
Well,
I don't know.
It was
They're very
causing
practiced at this, though.
Alan, it was causing the central screen to go black, which has so many control points,
Yeah.
or control options in it. So you have to. We control so many car systems in the car, right?
Because once the
No, right,
central
right, right.
screen
Just-
goes black,
That's right.
Yeah, but my kind of like, what I find funny about that they have to announce it as a recall, it's really nothing more than everybody already gets notified, like the cars download the firmware and then you get notified on your phone, like, hey, there's a firmware update. So there's already, I guess my point is, there's already a system to like tell everybody, hey, there's an update. And you know what I mean? It's like having to receive a letter in the mail because there's a Windows update. Right? It's the equivalent, right? It's like Microsoft sent me a letter. They said I should really update Windows right now because of a security issue or some important issue, right? It's just, I don't know. I think it's just an antiquated system combined with a more modern car manufacturer, right? And it's probably not just going to be Tesla moving forward, right? The other car makers are probably eventually going to do the same kind of thing to where enough a car, firmware
That does seem a little mean,
right?
though. Because I don't think Tesla recalls every second Tuesday of every month. It's like every third month or so.
Now, just like all the CPU manufacturers, they're just going to send out a firmware update that they forgot to change the cooling parameters between their old Atom GPU and the new Ryzen APU requiring more cooling. I mean, that was the word in the article.
No, I mean, well, the Atom wouldn't be as effective because it consumes a lot less power.
Well, that was it right there.
The TDP is lower, but I mean, it's a water cooling circuit. I don't think they changed the diameter of the coolant lines just for the newer ECU. And also, remember that same module, like it's a cooling plate that's sandwiched between. On one side, you would have the Atom or the Ryzen, and then on the other side, you have the pair of autopilot computers, the redundant autopilot computer chips, which are SoCs, right? And those things actually probably consume more than the Ryzen do, because just the autopilot hardware consumes like a couple hundred watts when you have both chips running.
Yeah, that's like 150 watts to 200 watts a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they had to have
on a battery,
enough cooling there for that car already.
Yeah.
But what's really puzzling to me, like why would the Ryzen overheat? It's connected to the same plate as two other chips. The other two chips aren't overheating, and they consume a lot of power. So they're making heat. So like, why are the other two chips not cooking? Like, I don't.
The APU is just
weird.
More sensitive.
It's the sacrificial chip.
The sacrificial
I don't know. Yeah. So there you go. There's the big old cold plate, and like those are not small cools.
How in the hell would it overheat in that?
Yeah, exactly. That's what's so surprising about this. Like, it's kind of makes me wonder if it's not either just shutting off coolant flow because of something that the valves are switching to when it tries to do that, that mode, or maybe it's sending hot water to the thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
what else could it be if it's not hot water?
I mean, something. Well, I mean, if it starves of coolant flow, then I mean, you've got three chips on it's going to heat up, right? If there's no coolant flow for some reason. On the schematic here, it looks like there is a bypass valve around it, so it's a throttle flow to that whole thing. Unless I'm reading the schematic wrong. It does look like a computer controlled bypass valve. I don't know. It's weird. Weird stuff. Cars do weird stuff. It's especially,
Wild, wacky.
The more complicated you make them, the more things that can be misconfigured. And Tesla has a habit of misconfiguring things frequently. You'd be surprised. When our Model 3 went a good 2 years where every winter there's the autopilot computer camera that's on the front windshield, and it has its own dedicated defroster lines on it. And there was 2 winters in a row where it would just refuse to defrost the autopilot camera. Like they would fix it just in time for summer, and then they would break it again during summer, and then when the next winter came around, it'd be broken again, and then they'd fix it again at the end of the winter. So that happened 2 winters in a row, and it only really affected people that were in just the right kind of climate zone where it was humid and freezing. Right, so then the inside of the camera would fog up. Basically, it had to be just the right kind of condition, which I assume does not happen in California. So, of course, nobody in the Tesla factories or the Tesla employees had a clue, right? It was just,
or Texas now, I guess.
Well, yeah, especially Texas isn't going to have the same kind of weather,
right?
It gets a little warm.
Yeah, but it was just the funniest
thing. They shut down
like,
nuclear plants now and then with the cold, so
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but there's plenty of that kind of stuff that happens with, especially with Tesla.
Yes,
they're really quick. They're really quick to cause regressions. Not intentionally. They just don't realize it's happening, and then everybody has to yell at them, and then they go, "Oh, whoops, sorry, guys, made it so, your car didn't have emergency braking or anything all winter because the camera couldn't see anything." Sorry.
Allyn, thank you for hopping in and giving us a touch of Tesla knowledge on this particular story. I thought it was an interesting crossover between AMD APUs and Tesla, so I immediately thought of you.
Of course you did.
Obviously, if they were still using an Intel product, this never would have happened. So,
correct.
It's just a lesson
you would
to
not
us
have been
all.
able to comment on it.
Don't be seduced. The Atom processor was maybe a little bit slower, but it consumed a lot less power.
Once you go red, you end up dead. So,
we haven't played. I think we fired up a game on that center console of the car once, just because it was in the change notes. Oh, there's a game. Oh, okay, cool. How do you get to the game? Oh, there's the game. Okay, and then we just shut it off and never. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't seem that necessary on the center console of the car. Because if you're traveling and you're charging and you're sitting in a charger for 20 minutes or maybe usually you're resting because you just drove for 3 hours. So you're not going to immediately fire up a driving game so that you can drive some more on the screen.
Yeah, we need variety. I need my entire Steam library on the center console. Okay, we have 8 minutes left as we record this until midnight on the East Coast. So let us move into picks of the week. Josh, are you still awake?
Maybe.
Hello.
So anyway, Acer has a 32-inch, I think it's VA, 144 hertz. It's 2560 by 1440, $270.
Tasty.
For a, it's FreeSync, LED backlit. It's not going to be HDR or HDR much, but it's dirt cheap.
Oh,
32-inch, 2K.
it is
VA.
Nice.
Yeah.
Black levels with that VA panel there.
Black levels are nice and won't look as colorful as IPS. But it's just absolutely dirt cheap for what you get. I mean, the stand isn't great, but who cares? You're not looking at the stand. It's so inexpensive for a 32-inch. Because, back in the day, I had to buy a Dell refurb in 2009. That was, a 32-inch 2560 by 1600. So
you must have paid
a higher
$1,000.
DPI. But it was, it was 60 hertz and it had issues. Stuck pixels all over the place. And now you get that for a third of the price.
What, stuck pixels?
And it's great. No stuck pixels in the new ones.
Now
You
stuck
get 2 or
pixels are
3.
cheaper than they've ever been.
Ever. And you get fewer of them.
Correct.
So they're more valuable, those stuck pixels.
Yes.
Right?
They're less.
They're part of the
less
blockchain
important
now.
the denser you get, I guess.
Yeah.
With the pixel, the dot pitch.
But yeah, it's just cheap for what you get.
Excellent.
I really want to do the second pick because someone brought it up, but I'll go with the Technic one.
Okay. Your pick,
Because I
Jeremy.
did not know that book existed, and I really need to know how to make love the Bruce Campbell way.
Okay.
But holy crap. All of a sudden in Canada, sorry, you Americans, you can go to Brett's favorite store and see this. But an RTX
That's
3080
next.
Ti overclocked at $1,450 is within spitting distance of MSRP. It was supposed to be about $1,250. So that is the reason that I actually managed to touch the hardware leaderboard and not collapse into a ball. I'm working on it slowly.
Yay.
I'm working on it slowly because it is still a little traumatic, but I'm not hiding in the corner hugging the ball, just sort of going, MSRP, MSRP, MSRP. So look forward to that.
I did some quick Googling, and that is 1,115 United States dollars for that card. Which
That's
still seems
little bit steeper.
high. Yeah.
It's a little bit steeper than up here, but still, honestly, I haven't seen it for that price, and haven't seen it for that price.
Do you
That's
know
the 3080
the
Ti?
other day, MSI at Newegg had an $809 3080 12 gig. It lasted for a day, but it was up all day long. It was an overclock version too. That's just ludicrous.
So is this one.
Yeah.
Is this novel also overclocked?
Oh, it's Bruce Campbell. He is
this
always
new?
overclocked.
No, it's from 2006. Okay.
No, I just had no idea he did it.
I've actually listened to his If Chins Could Kill audiobook, which was interesting. But I've not heard this one. All right. And it's on Audible. Join today and get it for free with your Audible trial. Not sponsored.
Hey, wait. This is not sponsored by.
No. All right. Let me go back. Brett, what is your pick this week?
I've suggested these devices before, but there's no better time to buy than now. The LG product mix for their televisions is about to turn over. These are essentially the 2021 models, the C1 models. I'm pretty sure that that Josh has one that's very similar to this, if not almost the exact same one. This price is pretty darn good for the 65, $1,579 for a brand new 65 inch C1 model. Like I said, the 2022s are about to come out. So if you're waiting
they're
for one of
already
these,
out. The C2s are
they're already out. All right, the C2s are out. So it's important if you want to get a nice C1 version of this. If I haven't looked at the C2 specs, so I'm not sure how well they compare, but there's been nothing but high praise for the C1s that have come for the entire time they've been out. you can get an excellent deal on a 65. So I actually looked over at Micro Center, of course, and the second link is actually the one I just bought. It's a 65.
Wow.
In-store pickup
C1
only.
It's
awesome.
It's a refurb, but essentially it is, but it is warranty factory. But this is original 55-inch price, and that's a good 55 price. It's $1,200.
Yes.
So this is a 65 C1 for $1,200, and I just bought it. I'm going to pick it up either today or not today, tomorrow, or well, actually, it's almost today.
Tomorrow, you're only getting
Saturday.
90 days parts and labor warranty.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, if you're okay with that,
It's going to blow up. It's going to blow up.
I am okay. It's not going to blow up. If I have to, I'll buy an extended on it. But I'm still getting a great deal on a 65 C1.
Yeah, mine's only 55, and I paid $1,450.
Yeah, I was going to say $1,500 for 55s was the going rate not too long ago.
Yep.
So to see that, even if it is a refurb, that's
what I thought too.
Almost.
I was prepared to pay around $12 for a 55, and there were a couple of sales. Best Buy had one for $10.99 for a couple of days. Micro Center had them also for $10.99, but they ran out of new stock, and I'm afraid that's kind of done. So I kind of probably missed that. So I was shopping around to see what I could find. Amazon had it for about $13, and I saw the Woot had it for about the 65 for like $15.79. So I thought that's a great deal for the 65. And then I saw the refurbs, and I read through the reviews and saw that people were saying, "Oh, it's got 70 hours on it. It's practically new. It's only got 100 hours on it. It's practically new." I'm like, okay, now I'll take a chance on that one.
Yeah, the OLED panels themselves have a limited life, so that'd be my only concern.
Mm-hmm. I'll evaluate it right away.
Well, yeah, I mean everything does, but
Sure.
it's not like you can't really replace the backlight on your LED backlit LCD TV either.
True.
So that's pretty much
no.
toast.
I mean, and these are individually lit, so does that really even count? I don't know.
No, it could just be like mine, where there was some corner impact damage at some point, and
there was horseplay. There was
horseplay. This section of the screen that's just black all the time. But you can't see it with letterbox stuff, so it's still great for watching films. In fact, it's like the cinema version of.
Do not invest in them; they'll ruin everything.
Children,
small children, do not
and
invest.
dogs. I don't know if it was the German Shepherd or the child. I can't quite figure it out. I do suspect
it was
the German Shepherd,
dog, the blind dog, or the small child.
No, before she was blind, and when she actually had all four of her legs, and had unfettered access to the entire house. That was such a mistake. I look back on those times, like, what was I thinking? Why did I have just no kennels? The dogs just have full reign of the house when I'm not home to do whatever they want. Come home and there's like a hole in the couch that my wife's dog dug. Like, that's okay. I only paid $600 for that couch 1 month ago. It's fine. It's okay. There's a hole in it now. It's fine. And then the TV. I paid $3,000 for my 65-inch OLED TV. And then something hits the corner of it. Like, oh, it's fine. It's okay. I'm just trying not to
the
cry.
impact looks like it had an image of the Enterprise, and the corner was also covered with some blue painting tape. So
you're never gonna let that go, are you?
Oh no.
And with that, we bid you farewell. Another week of the PC Per Podcast is in the can. And we will do this all over again next week. And I hope it does not last as long as this recording session has lasted. Though the final product may be a bit shorter than the 2 hours that we've been doing this so far.
See ya.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
All right.
Talk about more computer stuff.
Yes.
Whatever.
For another hour and a half.
Castle.
At some point.
Word.
I'm gonna hang up now and completely throw off Sebastian's
yeah, that's fine. No, I got it. Don't worry. It's all fine.
He's got it.
There's no way.
he says he's got it.
100%. Here. He's gonna hang up.
Say hi to Amy for us.
There's just
Gonna freeze on this
Freeze.
shot.
He's
Okay.
frozen.
Now, behold, everything